Hey guys, Eli here, and on today's video, I want to go into depth why we shoot 3 brackets for all of our real estate photos. And what that means, if you're not familiar, is that every one of our finished real estate photos that we deliver to clients started out as 3 different photos. An underexposed photo that's underexposed by 2 stops, a correctly exposed photo, and an overexposed photo, again, overexposed by 2 stops. We then take those photos and blend them into a finished photo. And because of that, we get a lot of questions like this, which says, please explain why you take 3 different exposures when you could just expose properly for the shot and then edit it in Lightroom. And so the reason we shoot 3 and we don't just expose properly is because when you're shooting real estate, there's a lot of dynamic range in the images. There's high dynamic range. And what that means is that outside the windows, the scene is very bright compared to inside. And in the shadows of the house, it's very dark. And our cameras are not nearly as good as the human eye, and they can't capture that full spectrum of lighting. And so while cameras are getting better and we can do more with one photo than we used to be able to, we're not gonna be able to get that full range without shooting 3 brackets. And I'm gonna jump over to my screen here and show you exactly what that looks like. So first things first, I wanna show you the photos that came straight out of camera. So this is the underexposed photo, and you can see that it exposes, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here, pretty well for the windows. It's a little dark out there, but we have captured the full scene there. We've also captured the highlights here in these lights, and so that's the data we take from this photo. The next photo is our correctly exposed photo, which means it pretty well balances out the highlights outside and the shadows inside. It looks like there's some data in each of those, and I'll show you why we can't just edit this photo here in a second. And then here's the third photo, which is the overexposed photo. And what that does is gives us nice data here in the shadows. In the shadows over here, we have some nicely lit image to work with. And we would blend all of these 3 photos together into a final photo that looks like this. So you can see that everything over here is correctly exposed. There's no loss of any kind. There's no completely dark blacks or really noisy shadows. Everything looks good over here. But on the brighter side of the image, especially here in the floor, pay attention to that actually now. We can see detail in the floor and we can see detail in the window. And then here, so this is the middle exposure that this comment suggests we should just edit this. So here's a version that I roughly edited to show you kind of what you'd expect if you just shot 1 bracket. And I will say that this scene doesn't have that much dynamic range. This issue gets even worse if the house is darker and the outside is brighter, or if like the windows are bigger and the house is really dark. You just get this blown out window and you won't really be able to see anything. So in this photo, what I did up here, you can tell I already dropped the highlights all the way and I boosted the shadows as much as they needed to be. But you can see that even when I bring down the highlights all the way, I still don't get the detail in the window. I'm going to compare back to the hand blended one, the 3 bracket one. You can see out the window really well. Back to the single bracket edited, completely blown out. And I wanted you to notice the floor as well. See right here, we literally can't, there is no data here. This is just pure white. If we go to the hand blended photo, you're going to see that we're able to retain that flooring data and it just looks a lot more natural. And also this image just looks better overall. When you hand blend, you can control color cast really nicely and you just get an overall more aesthetic completed image. And these are the type of images that our clients love us for. And the best part about this whole thing is I didn't edit this image at all. This went straight to our editing partner who charges us a little bit less than $1 per photo. And so they edited this finished photo for $1. Rather than trying to play with a photo like this in-house and try to make it look as good as possible like this, it's a much better idea to do 2 things. Number 1, shoot bracketed photos. That's kind of the new way of doing things. In the past, a lot of people use Flash, and a lot of people would still argue that Flash gets better results. I don't think that's true at all, especially today. But what it does do is take a whole lot longer. So I think Flash is definitely not the way to go. Kind of the new version of that is hand-blended HDR photos, because as you can tell, most people, 1, would not be able to tell this apart from a Flash photo, but number 2, most people would prefer this over a photo with Flash, which usually just introduces a lot of unnatural lighting, and unless you're really good, just doesn't look great. So long story short, that is why we shoot 3 brackets. You can see that this finished photo looks really good. Everything's exposed nicely. It looks like a beautiful magazine quality, ready to go real estate photo that we were able to produce in about 3 seconds on site by just hitting the shutter button and then outsourcing to our editing partner. And bam, we get an awesome photo back. And if you haven't seen the video where I mentioned outsourcing your photos, I'll link that in the description below where I talk about why I recommend doing that and what you should expect to pay, how you can find editors, everything like that. But the bigger picture here and the important part for this video is shooting 3 brackets is the way to go. It gives your editors the data to work with and gives you some great looking finished photos. And it really doesn't even take longer than shooting just a single bracket because your camera does all the work. When I shoot with the camera, I just set the middle exposure and the camera determines the -2 and the +2 and just takes those for me and gets all the work done in camera, and then I just send that to my editor and get awesome photos back. The last thing I want to add to this video is when I took that single exposure and tried to make it look good, I got okay results. You could see out the windows enough and you could see the shadows enough, but keep in mind that was using a pretty expensive camera with high dynamic range. If you're using a cheaper camera, the results are going to be worse. And if you're in a scene with more dynamic range, which is really common in real estate, it's also going to be worse. The camera can't see what your eyes can, especially not a cheaper camera, and so 3 brackets is the way to go. If you have not yet checked out my full course, Real Estate Photographer Pro, there's a discount linked below in the description where you can join that course and learn more info about it. It is my business in a box course, so I teach you exactly the steps I followed and continue to follow to keep my business growing, how to start your business, how to shoot photos, videos, 3D tours, drone photos, how to get clients. I really dive into the business side of things. About half of the course is how to shoot real estate and all the technicalities behind that. And the other half is how to grow a business, because that is what matters, is actually getting clients and getting paid to shoot real estate. None of us want to do this for fun. That's all for this video, guys. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I answer every single comment here on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one.